world came to peace, it will come to an end as it is now, because it cannot continue to the next stage. The next stage is children becoming human beings, realization of maturity. That is to say, the present is a society of ego. According to the society of egos, the structure of naming, the world of names, is necessary. They are needed to build the ego. But the next step will finally be the world of human beings. Children will become human beings. We are all children now. Each ego is in fact a child, the perfection of children. The next stage, when we reach perfection, perhaps 7.3 billion of us will join hands and become a world where we help each other. When that time comes, children will become people for the first time and become a society of people. This is the next stage. This is the duty of the ego. The ego nurtures the human form and brain and finally unites with the true spirit, human spirit, then charged with the duty of perfecting the human beings. Currently, there are 7.3 billion individual egos. They cannot be seen, but continue to build a vast energy of ego. This is not about the energy of each ego, but of 7.3 billion. At the critical point, when this energy is great enough to reach the final stage, those egos are the fragments adjoining the ultimate substance. The workings of those fragments are the true spirit, human spirit. These workings are also invisible, but are growing. Both are growing like two sides of a coin. Finally, as both energies unite, we will advance to human perfection. This is the duty of the ego. The world of the ego is the world of names. This is a temporary world and is not real. But it aims for a tremendously great goal. That is the duty of the ego. The name variation of each self that willfully enters and uses the human form is also a fragment of May, but even if it is not recognized, it still is assigned the role of an agent to ultimate substance. Each ego is a child. It's also given the role of agent to the ultimate substance. Almost no individual ego is aware. However, now, with the critical point of the ego stage gradually drawing near, within the many egos around the world, progressively people are taking notice. Especially young university students. University students from various countries have the flexibility to accept these facts. There is this obligation, the hope for such future. The hope is to have no conflict, no attacks on others, where one can live peacefully and in harmony, helping one another. An increase of young people hope and dream of reaching the next stage. The duty of the ego is an extremely important matter. If you followed through so far, the next topic won't be too difficult. The ego formation begins to painfully start with the naming, integration, transformation of the given name that has the secret ability to give names endowed in the human brain. Several years later, along with the name human beings, it receives the ego, and through the formation of human being, the ego self of the human being is formed. The current world, the whole world, 7.3 billion human forms exist. According to those able to give names, human beings, everything, such as the universe, nations, prefectures, cities, towns, societies, races, religions, education, academia, is created. What is necessary for this creation, formation, is the myriad names that became the named words, letters, numbers, and names. The creation of everything in the universe is not excluded from these examples. These named organisms are all living things that are named by human bodies. Everything that exists have been named. These are named organisms, thus the phenomena of May, life. These are all of your individual egos. Your egos have been built according to your names, which are fragments of May. Each ego is formed over time. and become able to give names. These are the things capable of giving names. Human beings exist. Actually, the name human is inputted at elementary school. Hiroya, you're a human. And we arrive at the present day as human beings. However, we're not human beings. We're still in the process of egos. Not at the point of being able to join hands with all 7.3 billion of us. We still have our own separate egos. However, we acknowledge the word human at the age of 5 or 6. Although acting as human, we have not in fact been human beings. We have brought the talk to this point. This is not an easy talk to digest. However, take an impartial look at the state of the world today, the wars after World War II. 1945, the Second World War. This was about 6 years, from 1939 to 1945. 62 million people died in the world. After this war was the Korean War from 1950 to 1953. 4 million people died. 1960 to 1975, the Vietnam War, 8 million people died. 1979 to 2001, the Afghanistan War, 150,000 people died. This was a conflict that led to war. From 2001 to the present, about 50,000 people have died, and is still going on. 1991, the Gulf War, 30,000 people died. 2003 to 2011, the Iraq War, 30,000 people died. The war with IS, Islamic State, is still ongoing. Apart from these wars, there have been atrocities within countries, such as the genocide by the Pol Pot administration in Cambodia. This was in 1975 to 1979, and 3 million people were slaughtered. Like this, war is never ending in this world. War is unceasing. Arthur Koestler, born in Budapest, Hungary, was Jewish, a journalist and novelist. He was also active in the UK in his later years. He said, "If asked what was the most significant day for humanity, I would answer that it was August 6th, 1945. Until that day, humanity had lived with the premonition of dying as an individual. After the first atomic bomb in human history was dropped over Hiroshima and flashed like the sun, humanity had to come to terms with living with the premonition of extinction of the species. The Christian era, AD, ended on August 6th with the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, and the time after that should be called PH, post-Hiroshima, year zero. The ultimate agony of humanity is the endless repetition of intraspecies war and intraspecies slaughter. This is the central feature of people, human beings. Before the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, war involved the premonition of individual death by cannons or guns, but with that one atomic bomb, 200,000 or 300,000 people were wiped out at once. Continuing like this, it will lead to human extinction. About the endless repetition of intraspecies war, he wondered why, of the 30 million organisms on Earth, only one, Homo sapiens, is capable of killing its own kind. He said that this is the central feature of human beings. Other organisms don't fight until extinction. Why do Homo sapiens endlessly repeat this slaughter? He and his wife committed suicide together at the age of 78 in the UK. He died with an extremely pessimistic view of the future of humanity. Arnold J. Toynbee, a historical philosopher, was also British. At any rate, sooner or later, humanity will probably destroy itself with all-out nuclear war, victory over egocentrism. This is the key to peace. Until we have that key in hand, the survival of humankind is doubtful. He also predicted that humankind will destroy itself with an all-out nuclear war. But he includes the advice that humanity may still be able to survive if we conquer egocentrism. For example, the world currently has a total of 23,000 nuclear warheads between the US, Russia, France, China, the UK, Pakistan, India, Israel, and North Korea. This many nuclear warheads could wipe out all human life on Earth 5 times. Moreover, if nuclear power plants are struck with missiles, unlike Fukushima, no one would be able to live within a 200-kilometer radius of the site. This is a very dangerous situation. Now, humanity has continued to exist while clashing into one another's national or ethnic interests, but there is still the possibility of more war. Aside from war, there is also economic war. Money moves freely through the world. The result is the value of energy, iron, and steel resources fluctuating dramatically. Each nation's exchanges fluctuates violently. It's enough to destroy a whole country's economy. In today's global economy, large amounts of money multiply and rush around the world purely for profit. People put their hands on stocks, foreign exchange, energy sources, and underground resources. Then, in the real economy, not one of money, the actual economy that keeps society moving, companies fear for their future due to the relentless changes in money speculation. Now, the factor of economic war, something powerful enough to destroy the economy of an entire country. In the competition of the free market emerges a small number of winning companies and a large number of losing companies. Thus, most working people's lives are unstable. International corporations invest in many different countries. For example, 3 big general trading companies in Japan, Mitsui, Mitsubishi, and Sumitomo. There are others like Marubeni, Itochu, and Sojitz. These large trading firms have invested 100 or 200 billion yen in American shale oil in the last 3 years. They also invested similar amounts in iron, steel, and coal in South America and Australia. World market prices collapsed, and these companies calculated losses of 100 or 200 billion yen by asset impairment accounting in this March. The companies are big, so they are still standing. If they were smaller, they would have collapsed. From the perspective of working people, it's becoming an everyday occurrence for superiors to make these investments, ending with serious losses, leading to close down workplaces or divisions. From the perspective of working people, it's becoming an everyday occurrence for superiors to make these investments, ending with serious losses, leading to close down workplaces or divisions. From the working person's perspective, this economic system is unstable. There are shareholders for the entire company. It is commonly heard about top management saying to go for certain investments, only to end in loss. But the reality is, these actions create instability in the lives of many people. This is one aspect of economic war. Disparities will grow in the present economic system. This is because those who have capital and money create money, so 10 years later, those with money will earn more. Those without money are doing manual labor, have insufficient earning. Therefore, the disparity will continue. Commercialism will even enter into education and medicine. Now, at worldwide universities, departments and subjects that lead to employment are rapidly increasing, and those that don't are closed. Therefore, philosophy is quickly disappearing from universities. This too is commercialism. Another big issue is an inability to offer stable employment to young people. This seems to be the case globally. There is a lack of stable work, even for university graduates. The fact that such economic warfare is currently becoming extreme is the symptom of a very unstable situation for the majority of the people. These global wars, economic war, and the trembling of outer layers will become progressively incessant. For example, look at this tree. Most people will look at the exterior of the tree, the visible part. In spring, leaves grow, flowers bloom, and bears fruit. In winter, it withers and leaves fall. If a typhoon blows, some twigs may snap off. This surface is continual change, the same as the outer layer of the world. It sways within this continual change. With time, both mind and body fall apart. This is the appearance of its state. But what is important are the unseen roots. It spreads its roots firmly into the ground, which support the tree, and absorbs necessary nutrients, sending them upward. The concept arrives at these roots. If we reach the fundamental concept, we realize that the fate of the changing exterior is inevitable. By firmly planting roots that don't change, it will be unlikely shaken by the changes on the surface. All scholarly fields exist on the apple's surface. There are also many other problems currently being dealt with in the world. For instance, problems of economic disparities and incurable diseases. We will dig deeper into these fields aiming to solve these problems. Doing so, we will reach the common theme of every field and problem at the core of the apple. That is where the universal and fundamental themes of humanity reside. This theme consists of what is the ego, what are persons, what is life, and what is the ultimate substance. By examining this theme, we will reach a solution to the apparent problems. We will reach the future direction of humanity. To go on without examining these universal and fundamental themes means that humanity will be forever swept away by surface changes. What are human beings? Most scholars would say the answer to this question is still not found. What this means, the roots are not actually understood. The ego is invisible, but the longest part of this talk was explaining the ego. In a world where 7.3 billion human bodies have their own egos, each ego has its own pattern of thinking based on its software. Eventually, the ego's energy will reach a critical point. The human spirit and true spirit energies will reach their maximum and will fuse. Someday, humans will reach perfection. Furthermore, I mentioned we carry the expectation and hope for this to happen. This is an invisible human software. The physical core of the human body and may is visible. Humans themselves and their facilities and workings, abilities, 7.3 billion of them, are invisible. The ego, people, human beings, and the workings of say-may are invisible. The say is visible, the bodies of organisms. May is an invisible working, ability. The core of the workings of may, the ultimate substance, is also invisible. So far, all we have talked about is a world that is invisible. Currently, we haven't been able to delve into the topic of the unseen world. Scholars also don't really know what a human being is. The phrase human being is used here. The explanation is in reference material at the end. Actually, the expression human being is incorrect. The correct meaning of human being is the world, society, community. In Japanese, rather than ningen, pronounce it as jinkan. In the Meiji period, this word was mistakenly used to refer to a person, but originally should have used the word hito. Please see the reference materials at the back. We don't know much about these humans. We don't know about the ego, human beings, about may, or the ultimate substance. In addition, this is a world of names. Recognized only by names, names is not real and is a temporary world. Everything in the world is constructed on the basis of the unknown things in a temporary world where we don't know people or egos or say-may or substance. Politics, economics, and academia too. A big tree moves this way and the surface changes only. We know nothing about its real roots in the ground. So this world can seem quite unreliable, like a house built on sand. But even with that included, this will eventually be a crucial checkpoint when the time comes for the 7.3 billion to switch their human software. the time when conflict will cease. That is to say, all will come to function as one. It seems as if 7.3 billion people on Earth are thinking, judging, and acting within the three walls. It is natural that from humanity's past to the present, people should have thought and acted within these walls. This is not something to criticize. However, looking at the situation of humanity today, the possibility of a nuclear Third World War grows each year due to the entangling of continually repeated wars, also today's economic wars. No matter what it takes, in the future, humanity must graduate from these three walls. Ultimately, it depends on whether human beings can graduate from their egos. To go on without overcoming self-centeredness, as Arnold J. Toynbee suggested, will mean that humanity's existence in the future is uncertain. I stand by these words. Humanity's future is dependent on overcoming the ego. Some signs of change are seen over the 6 years of the Foundation's activities. This is particularly notable with the young students. For about 6 years in the lecture, I have discussed the 4 universal to students at many universities. The reactions of students 6 years ago and now are different. There is an increase of students today seeking a future for a harmonious and peaceful society, cooperative and devoid of war for humanity. If young students seek a new form of society for the future existing 20 to 30 years from now, then this direction is one which we will proceed with. I would like the educational platform in every university in the world to be a place where students can hold on to dreams and hopes for the future. Hopefully, this foundation can help support this goal. May is energy. At times, it's the atmosphere, waves, or the entire universe's invisible workings, abilities. It is energy. To review, May is the essence of everything in the universe. That is, the working of May. The human form is the core form of May. The ego is variations of the name, a child, an agent of ultimate substance. Words, letters, numbers, and names are the variable functions of May. Even if the ego waves of all 7.3 billion of us living now are only thoughts and ideas, they release energy. Words also release energy. Actions as well. Each ego goes through its daily life emitting positive or negative waves. Positive waves are lively, positive, cheerful, bright, high-spirited, strong, peace, creation, harmony, fun, happiness, laughter, comfort, satisfaction, fulfillment, relief. Contrary, negative waves are illness, negative, dark, despair, low-spirited, weak-spirited, war, breaking of commandments, attacks, discontent, penance, sorrow, pain, dissatisfaction, austerity, wrath, self-pride, criticism, jealousy, loneliness, meaninglessness, worry, and insecurity. There is a wide latitude between the positive and negative within the fate of the ego. What is guaranteed is war. Many people have been killed. These negative waves explain why it was possible for Pol Pot to massacre 3 million people, and why to this day human bodies are attacked in war and lives are lost easily. This is a negative peculiarity of the ego. If possible, in your daily lives, try to move your waves to the positive side. Positive waves resonate easily with the atmosphere and with the great energy of May. Since negative waves tend not to resonate, you'll end up further away from the graduation of the ego. Since the positive side resonates better with May to begin with, it will be easier for the ego to approach graduation. But this is something that each ego must do consciously every day. They must always have positive waves. It is written that words used as first-person personal pronouns in Japanese, such as watashi, ore, ware, boku, jibun, in English, I, and others, are names of the self, names representing the self, according to the dictionary. In the book of etymology, it lists onore and ware as antonyms of hito, person, human. Again, you can refer to the reference material at the back to see which dictionary wrote first-person personal pronouns in this way. In old Japanese dictionaries, these were unrelated to persons, but to the self. I'm about to speak as one of 7.3 billion now, so please listen. These are names to refer to oneself when one claimed the self. However, it is becoming personal. They are names for a person. People are the 7.3 billion of them, so there aren't 7.3 billion words. This phenomenon, long ago in Japan, people called these names of the self, but somewhere in time they became personal. Person is the general term for 7.3 beings. Self-ego is one of 7.3 billion. Person and self-ego are antonyms. However, please organize your thoughts so that these are distinctly a name for the self and a personal term. Number 31 shows the Daikanwa Dictionary's entry for shi, a representative name for the self in Japanese. It has many negative meanings: to be partial, to do something unfair, to do something wicked, secretly hidden, urine, urinate, drown, adultery, a hidden place for a man and a woman. Using these names elevates the ego. In Japanese, 3 to 4-year-old children do not use this name for the self. A child named Taro may say, "Play with Taro." However, when a child turns about 5 and is able to use names for the self, their ego rapidly